Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw Reacts. Today I'm here to review the Anna Kendrick directorial debut, Woman of the Hour, that's out on Netflix right now. Anna is also the star in this film, playing the character Cheryl, who ends up going on the game show where the serial killer is. In case you're unaware, Woman of the Hour is based on a true story where a serial killer actually goes on a dating show and actually wins. He actually wins the competition. He wins the episode. But the woman, played by Anna Kendrick, Cheryl, decides, no, I'm not going to go on a date with him because he's kind of creepy. So there are some changes from what I'm understanding in terms of the actual story versus what's in the film Woman of the Hour, where they do make some changes to make it more dramatic, because in the film we see in the marketing, she ends up going on the date with him. And actually, in fact, she doesn't at all. She doesn't actually do anything with him. Like, after the show is over, she doesn't go any sort of date or any sort of dinner or anything with him. But they had to build that tension to show who this guy is. And I was actually surprised by the film in terms of the actual pacing and the way it was jumping around in time, because I thought it was just going to be a linear structure, and it turns out not so much. We're jumping back and forth between learning more about Rodney, the serial killer involved in this story, and more about some of the other people he was interacting with and some of the other people he ultimately ended up taking their lives. And I think it actually, in a sense, helped us to understand the darkness and how bad of an individual this is. But I was expecting, I guess, to learn more and see more of Cheryl, because I honestly thought, based on the marketing, we're going to be seeing more of her character, and we do see some of it, and we do learn more about her, and she does have some progression in the story in this film. But I was expecting, honestly, more from her and less about Rodney, the serial killer. But it turns out it's actually cutting back and forth and kind of showing the different timelines and stuff, and showing like some flashbacks and everything, but it's tying more so in part of her story, part of his story, and then of course their connection in this version of the story in terms of Woman of the Hour. I think Anna did a pretty good job with her directorial debut here. The cinematography was pretty well, worked pretty well and looked pretty good, and the pacing of the film worked as well. And we see more and more of actors jumping into the director's chair. And I think Anna did a pretty decent job in terms of picking this as her first project in terms of her directorial debut, because it's suspenseful and it looks pretty good shot-wise. And like I said, the pacing. So I think it's a good mix of seeing what she can do with this kind of story. And I'm curious how she would handle potential other genres, because this really is more the not necessarily mystery, but more of a thriller and suspense sense. So I was curious to see how she would handle, say, comedy. How would she handle directing a fantasy? I'm just curious how she would handle it based on how she went about with this film. And I'm glad that it actually got picked up. I do wish I saw this on the big screen, though. Personally, I wish I did. I understand Netflix got the distribution and they're putting it out, but I would have liked to have seen, hey, what this would have looked like on the big screen, because it did premiere at a festival last year to get distribution. So I kind of wish I saw it on the big screen, but it's okay. I'm glad that the film's out for everyone to watch, and I hope that people recognize that, first of all, it's a pretty solid film, but also recognize that Anna did a pretty decent job here, in my opinion, directing this film. Overall, I think the cast did a pretty good job. I will say, though, Pete Holmes, it's clear his character's in this story and just in the mix of this film to be kind of the comedic relief and kind of taking some of the suspense and kind of, having us, kind of have a blend of genre. But ultimately, I don't see how his role really mattered at the end of the day. I understand in a tonal sense, but in terms of what his character does in the story in this film, you could have easily removed his character and added a couple more scenes with Cheryl, or maybe a couple more scenes with Rodney, the serial killer, and you wouldn't have really noticed anything different, in my opinion, if they didn't have his character at all, Pete Holmes' character. But that's just me. Overall, Woman of the Hour is a pretty solid film. I highly recommend checking it out. It's a pretty good suspense film, pretty good thriller film, and I think people are really going to enjoy it. And I hope that Anna Kendrick gets more opportunities to direct based on this film. So yeah, overall, Woman of the Hour, pretty solid.